Good morning, everyone. Shavua Tov. Thank you for being here. The month of Adar is sponsored. The learning for the month of Adar is sponsored by the Aron family, Leilui Nishmas Levi Ben Yosef, by the Silvers, Leilui Nishmas Bas Yefega Bas Yisrael, and by Raziel and Leah Hirschkowitz, and Leilui Nishmas Yishaya Shalom Ben Yitzchak Isaac, by the Finns, Leilui Nishmas Levi Yitzchak Ben Yerucham Anan Zalman, and for the Shmir of all of our Chayalim, Tzadikim, for the Refuah Shlema of some of the Chayalim, David Netanel ben Ayala Ahuva, and for the Refuah Shlema of Tov Shmuel ben Avi Anava, Avram Yaakov ben Dvara Fega, Betoch Shar Chol Yisrael. Also, if you could just have in mind, my sister-in-law is in labor right now, so the daven for a Leida Kala for Malka Blima Bas Rivka Tzipora Frumit. It's my brother's wife. Okay, we could pass these around, everybody. Thank you. I don't even have to say that today's triggering. All these shurim are triggering. It's not even something I have to mention. However, there's an eitzah. There's a very challenging eitzah that we're going to be hearing from the Mechaber today. A challenging one because I don't know if anyone's up for it. I don't know if I'm up for it. But we'll see it. We'll see it probably very, very soon. What we've come to in the learning that we've been doing is that the hashka'ah, mashkiya in our children's emotional development is not a luxury, it's a must. We've kind of really come down to the heart of that in the last few shir, definitely last week's shir. Deciding to be mashkiya in our children's emotional development is not something that we leave for guidance counselors, teachers, or psychologists. If need be, that's what we need to do after. But as a shlav rishoni, zot omeret, as the initial outset in terms of us looking at who are we as parents and what did Hashem have in mind when He created the concept of parenting, of parent and children. From the outset, mamash, from the beginning, it's that, there seems to be a tall order here. There's machshava dibur ma'aseh. There's the action. I have to make sure my children have everything they physically need. There's the dibur. They need to hear words of love as well. And there's the machshava aspect as well, which ties in very much to the hashka'a rikshit. The machshava aspect is thinking thoughts of love for my children. It doesn't just mistakem. It's not just saying, okay, I walk around, I send good vibes. It's not what we're talking about either. But a hashka'a and itpatchut rikshit, the investment in the emotional development of our children is on the most important place of, I believe, what this sefer and what the Rav is trying to give over to us. Obviously, he didn't write a whole sefer to make sure it's important. We understand that it's important that sandwiches are in the tikim. That's not why he's going to write this sefer. And he's also not going to write a whole sefer so that we are clear that we have to say words of love to our children. That could be misukam, that could be summarized in one statement. Rather, it is exactly what we got to right now. I feel like now the sefer is actually really starting. There's a lot of different hakdamas we can do for today, but I think that's enough. I think that's enough for right now. If you look at we're going to be starting on Daf Lamed Gimel Binyan Nechona on the bottom over here, but look at the paragraph before that, because this we didn't get to last time. Kol hore mevin me'atzmo, every parent understands from their own, shelo shayach lalbish hayeled im otam begadim o na'alayim b'meshech 3 shanim. So we understand on the most materialistic and important and essential level, we don't dress our kids with the same clothes for 3 years when they're children and they're in stages of development. It's funny, when I was a kid, there was I don't know, maybe it's a different era. I had a pair of weekday shoes and a pair of Shabbos shoes. Yeah, that's not so much the world where, I don't know if that's where we're still holding today. But even then, those shoes from our children, they, Baruch Hashem, are growing. They're in a state of growth. So it's very clear to us that when they're growing physically, you have to get larger shoes. The kid is growing, the clothes that did fit them, it was good, it was right for the time. Af banefesh. but in the soul. צריך להעניק לילד בן שנתיים בניין של הרגשות שמתאים לו, בגיל 3 בניין הרגשות שונה, וכן הלאה. How many of you are בכורות in the room? Okay, so, right, so there is that classic statement that all the mistakes were basically done on us, through us, וכולי, and then they realize the second. I don't really buy that much, but we know and we see it with our own children. This is the satan, this is the trick that the other side says. If I knew exactly how to give my child what they need when they're 5, and now they're 8, and I'm still giving them what I was giving them when they were 5, what does it say about what I was giving them when they were 5? Listen really closely. What does it say about what I gave them, what I provided for them when they were 5? And I'm still giving it to them when they're 8? What does it say about what I was giving to them when they were 5?
It's too much. It wasn't effective.
When they were 5?
No, it was just
what they needed.
It could be it was exactly what they needed. But because now I'm in a new shlav in parenting, the age has now gone up. So what does it try to, unfortunately, the dark side, what does it start to tell me in my mind? That the fact that I'm not giving them, I don't know yet what to give them now at this age. What does it start to tell me about my whole parenting? The whole thing was messed up. You don't know what you're doing. V'zeh sakana gdola. And that's a very, very big place where a lot of parents fall into in terms of self-persecuted thoughts and bad, negative thoughts about ourselves and what we've done for our kindlach. It's not true. It could be that which you're giving your child at 8, which is what you gave them at 5, is definitely not what they need at 8. But those shoes fit when they were 5. It was right. Yechol liot, I don't know. It could be, probably was. When they're older, that which I gave them when they were younger is just not shayach. It doesn't mean that there's anything messed up about you. It just means we need to be open to the notion that you're not supposed to know how to do something you never did before. I want you to think about that line. There's no expectation on any of us to know how to do something that you never did before.
And even when you did it with the first one, it may not be meant for the second
one. Oh, that's already,
yeah.
I'm trying to not overwhelm us, but it's true. that perfect mahalach you had for the Bechor is the worst thing in the world that child number 2 needs. Maybe it's great for 3, but for 4, again, we just don't know these things, right? But before we do all that, there's the concept that's called en Habayshan lamed. I'll give you an example. Someone came, maybe I shared this on Thursday, I don't remember, but someone came to schedule a meeting from outside the Kehillah, and it was a really pleasant meeting. He was a very sweet man, young man, who wanted to know how to become a mashpia, how to start teaching. They feel a passion about it, and they want to start teaching and get experience. And we're talking for a while, and then after a while, we were talking about learning from experience, v'chulei. So he said to me, but I know, but before I start, I need to get experience. How do you get experience in teaching? By teaching, right? Sorry?
Like establishing credit.
How do you do that without establishing credit? How do you establish credit without establishing credit? There's no
The ultimate question.
end of al-kazeh. But in parenting, it's the same exact thing, the same exact inyan. Spousing. How do you know how to work with your spouse on the concept of kedusha sabay, kedusha sayachasim? It's not stam that the Gemara says, "En adam omed al divrei Torah ela im ken nechshal bahen." That the only way we could actually be, what does it mean la'amod al divrei Torah? In yeshivish terminology, it means holding. Holding. I'm holding. I'm there. I'm in a place that I could grab and say I'm doing okay. But generally speaking, and you can't think of this lechatchila because it's a little bit dangerous, but a person only stands. They own divrei Torah only once they failed, because then they know what doesn't work. Remember the famous story about a person that gets lost in the forest and he doesn't know where to go, and he finds someone and that's been there for a while, and he says, the guy says, what way should I go to? And the guy answers back, he's like, I'm not sure, but I definitely know that way you shouldn't take, because I was there, right? So in our lives, process of elimination definitely is something that we have to be aware of, especially in the tchum of chinuch. We're not meant to know exactly what to do. We're meant to learn, observe, be open with bitul to the notion that maybe our gut, our kishkas are not always right, and maybe that shita that I learned in a shir is not necessarily exactly what this child wants either, or needs either. We don't know. But it's a humbling, listen, is there anything more humbling than parenting? Most humbling thing in the world. Before we were parents, we have these visions, this imagery, we have the description, we know, more or less, I'm going to be, my table's going to look like that. And then when it's not like that, you freak out. We need openness and bitul to the obvious reality that en Habayshan lamed, and all you got to do is be open to giving it your best shot, your best shot. So when it comes to emotional development of a child, how are we supposed to know how to do these things without, losing our minds? How are we supposed to know? So first we go back to a basic tenet of faith of this sefer. I call it a basic tenet of faith of life, but definitely of this sefer. And it sounds silly what I'm going to say, but it really is of the bottom line in a lot of the areas that we have to remind ourselves when learning this sefer. And to me, it's the most important thing. Hashem didn't make a mistake with the children that he sent to your home. That's not a mistake. Hashem did not make a mistake. Hashem didn't make a mistake that these children are your children, and Hashem didn't make a mistake that your children's parents are you. It's both, all right? This is very important. You'd be thinking like, what's the chidush here? Trust me. When you really internalize that statement, you approach the avoda in a shir like this differently. Now, what's more important? That Hashem didn't, to believe in, that Hashem didn't make a mistake by giving these kids you as parents, or that Hashem didn't make a mistake by giving you as parents these children? Sorry? Both.
Yes.
You as parents.
I don't know. I don't, for the sake of our learning, in the emet of emet, it's both, obviously. But we'll see. But so now let's see, with that Agdama, let's see how he points us to a direction, and like I said in the beginning of Shir, a very irritating Eitzah that's going to happen soon. I don't know if anyone's up for it.
Should I just leave now?
Yes. No, not at all. This is where we're at, אין מה לעשות. לאחר שהוברר לנו כי ההשקעה בתחום הרגשי היא אכן חיונית, after it's been clear to us that investing in the emotional development is definitely essential. חיונית is more than essential. It means it's a must, like it needs to be. אף יותר מתחום העשייה, even more than sandwiches in the lunchbox. וכל הורה חייב להעמיד זאת כיעד וכנושא בביתו. Each parent must place this emotional development as a yad. Yad, you know what yad means? Destination. וכנושא בביתו, this is a subject, must come up in the house. נשאלת השאלה, כיצד עושים זאת? I love him. Now the shaila is yofi. You proclaimed, this is needed. But I am more interested, and we are too, as well as, tell us how. Tell us how you think, Rav Itamar Schwartz, the Bilvavi Mishkan Evne. Tell us how you think this is done. אכן, ברגע שההורה מפנים, the moment a parent internalizes, שההשקעה בבניין עולם הרגשות של הילד הינה יעד מרכזי וחשוב, זו כבר התקדמות חשובה מאוד, שעשויה לסייע לו רבות להשיג את המטרה. You have to believe in it. זאת אומרת, you must believe that as on you, as a parent, this concept of working on the emotional buildup of your child is very, very important. And like I said before, and that you are up for the task to a certain extent, and I'm saying to a certain extent, because it is clear that we live in a world, thank God, with so much more help that's coming from the outside. So to the best of your capabilities, you are up for the task. He says, first of all, that already means you're halfway there. Knowing that this is a ya'ad mirkazi, that this is a very important, this is a destination mark in the home that you're building. Now, many people don't have the koach to go there. They're so exhausted by the olam ha'asiyah. Think about it. How exhausted are you after a whole day? Let's say, I remember one of the most weirdest things is when we made Aliyah, us young kids were already in a school that we got home at 4:30 or 5. We come to Eretz Yisrael, the long day was Tuesday where you finish at 1:15. Most days were finished at 11:50. I'll never forget this, 10 to 12. My mother's sitting there like wondering what's the story now? Like where, like camp all year long? Before there was massive amount of chugim. It was like one chug every 3 weeks or something. Not like we have today where there's 2 chugim every half an hour to run to with carpools. Back in the day, it wasn't this much. So we're exhausted. We're exhausted sometimes by 2, sometimes by 4, and definitely by 7. And then the kid comes into the room, and now it's time when everything calms down and goes like, oh, olam regashot times. Olam regashot time, are you kidding me? Right? These are real things, but if I believe that this is something that is part and parcel with everything that I visualize and understand in terms of the gift of being a parent, he says that's already a shlav mitkadem. You're already in a good place before you even do anything. Meaning, if you acknowledge that this world of emotions is not something that should be left for the teacher or the chug or the therapist to be dealing with lechatchila, but lechatchila, it's you, that's already a shlav mitkadem. I say the same thing about believing in Hashem and Torah. Putting it first and saying lechatchila, they're going to take care of it. I send them to a religious school. It'll be nourished through them. God's not that shallow. That God can't be that shallow that He gave you children in order to know who to send them to talk to them about God. Lechatchila, there's something in the way that you speak about Hashem, the Torah, and Eretz Yisrael. Lechatchila, that is coming from that was designed to come through you. And yes, the supplements, Baruch Hashem, and there are many, come afterwards. Now, he's going to go with by ages. Begil harach. What's gil harach? So what ages are? What are we talking about? 2, 3, 4, 5. משהו כזה. Let's say 3 to 5. בגיל הרך יש להורים זמן שיחה יחסית ממושך עם הילדים. You actually talk a lot more with your children when they're younger. וזאת מכיוון שבאופן טבעי, naturally, so הילדים נמצאים בבית יותר זמן. It's simply because kids are home more at those ages. כל אחד לפי עניינו. One of my kids is at a shlav that they come home for a little bit, but kimat every day and evening, they're out with good things, with a great chevra and sniff and all these things. And this is a kid that was with us like day and night when they weren't out as much. And this is like, okay, adapting to this new shlav in life. And it's a beautiful thing that they're out a lot. But when they were younger, there was so much more time because they were home. So the conversations, which naturally, bless you, which naturally lead to some kind of an intuition to binyan olam regashot was more there, it was more available. It was in front of us most of the time. Agav, באופן טבעי, naturally speaking, ככל שהילדים יותר בוגרים, the older they get, הם נמצאים פחות בבית. They're homeless. I know it's impossible to imagine this when your kids are like 3 and 5, or 1 and 2, 1 and 3. You can't imagine how could I exist in a world that they're not going to be here all the time. They eventually are not around all the time. Right, Zahava? The older kids.
They're all still, so.
They're still home all day? Oh, really? Okay. Again, each with their own setting, right? But sometimes it happens that kids go out. And especially, I remember another thing we made Aliyah. In LA, I was 9, so when we first made Aliyah, so obviously I couldn't. No one hung out outside. You didn't go to walking to a friend's house. I lived in an area that I don't know. Maybe my tmimus was like, no, it was very peaceful and loving. I don't know. It was in an area called Hancock Park in Los Angeles, Highland Avenue. We never went to anyone's house alone. Even with our family, we didn't walk at night besides Shabbos. Besides Friday night, no one walked anywhere. Come to Eretz Yisrael. My friends come to pick me up Friday night. Gishat Shevet, it was called. The Shevet, the Bnei Akiva Shevet gets together. Where? There was a central area. And they come to pick me up at 9 p.m. on Friday night. My parents, when we first met, my parents are freaking out. Wait, what is this? Okay, when are you coming home? And my mom's like, okay, so 9:30, mashkazeh, right? Like, we're leaving at 9, I'll be home at 9:30. The kids are laughing. All these kids are also Anglo kids, they came a bit before me. Well, okay, when are you coming home? I can't be home later than 11:15. 11:15 for a 10-year-old, 10-year-old? Lo nishma kadavar hazeh. Here it's a little bit different, or at least it was. It still is, right?
I was once in a meeting with a family that made Aliyah from France, and they never knew where their son was, and they were asking, like, me and the Yoetz said, like, is this normal? And then the father said, I think he took the line, Liot am chofshi be'eretz David. Literally.
Mamish.
Such a good line.
Mamish. Nachon. אוקיי, so באופן טבעי, ככל שהילדים יותר בוגרים, הם נמצאים פחות בבית, ופעמים שהשיחות עמהם הולכות ומתקצרות, because naturally, let's say, in many cases, children are home less as they grow up, ולכן איכות השיחה צריכה להיות גבוהה יותר. So therefore, because it's less time that they're home, that means the quality of the conversation when they are home has got to be larger, bigger, deeper, more. Now he says like this, כל הורה יכול לבדוק בביתו מהו נושא השיחה שלו עם ילדיו. This is triggering because he's saying over here, every parent can check to see what is the topic that you're discussing with your child. ניתן לעשות זאת באמצעות ניסיון פשוט. He says, you could try this very simple test at home. על ידי הנחת מכשיר הקלטה בבית למשך כמה שעות. Place a recording device in the home for a few hours, ולאחר מכן לשמוע את מהלך השיחה שלנו עם הילדים, and then listen back. But I just want to say something. If you know that it's there the whole time, and you're trying to check yourself like that, it's not going to work. It's like Rabbi Nachman says about his bodhidus. If you learn that Ashrei Ha'ish, Ha'isha, praiseworthy is the person that eventually is able to shed tears when they speak to Hashem, and that's what you're trying to get to the whole time. Rabbi Nachman says that even if you end up crying in his bodhidus, you're kind of cheated. These things can't be totally conscious. So if you know that there's a recording device in the house the whole time, and you want to be proud of yourself, so you're very much mitakesh to make sure you speak words that would make you sound a very proud and responsible parent afterwards, you're not fooling anybody. So what is he, I mean, I don't know exactly how this would work unless like you told your spouse or you told someone else, place a recording device in my house sometime this month in an afternoon, right? And at a certain point, you're not thinking about it all the time. Then you'd listen back afterwards without it being in a state of thinking, there's a recording device right now capturing the words that I'm saying. So I'm not sure exactly how this would work, but it's not even, right now it doesn't even matter because look what he's going to say. Berova mikrim negale. He's saying, I'll tell you what will happen. When it's subconscious, when you're subconscious, when it's being recorded and you're not aware of it. He says, I'll tell you what you'll probably hear. Berova mikrim, not always. But most of the time we will find out שההקלטה מכילה בעיקר פקודות רבות. פקודות. Yeah. It'll mainly capture demands and commands.
Do this, do
Yeah, more or less instructions, really. Not really instructions. Kids want instructions. They hear more, do this, and without instructions. עשה שיעורים, do homework, קחי את הילקוט, take your backpack, סדר את החדר, clean up the room, ועוד כהנה וכהנה. And a lot of those things. You'll hear a lot more of those things. ואף בחלק היותר חינוכי, and even when it comes to the more educational realm of the conversation, ייתכן שנשמע שם התעניינות קצרצרה ביום שעבר הילד בבית הספר או בתלמוד תורה. So he says like this, what's the first thing we ask our children when they come home? It's the right question. How was your day? How was school, right? How long is that interaction?
Fine.
5? Fine? What'd you say?
One word answer.
Maybe, like, so how long on a timeline is that interaction? Bekoshi. And he says, ואם נשאר זמן, if any time is left, נשמע את ההורה מספר סיפורים לילדים. Maybe we'll hear parents telling children stories, שדבר חיובי מאוד כשלעצמו. פחות או יותר זהו המבנה היומיומי שקיים ברוב הבתים. In most homes, this is the structure of interaction and exchanges, verbal exchanges between parents and children. So how much was covered? How was your day? Which is a very good question to ask, although I once heard Rabbi Jacobson say, I heard him many times say Gewalt things, but this one really struck me. There was a Nobel Peace Prize winner named Isadore Rabi. Anyone hear that name? From him? From YY? He said a Gewalt thing. So they asked him, I forget in what field he won. I don't remember if chemistry. You could check in. So they asked him, what was the secret? What was it like growing up at home? Like, what was your secret to your Chinuch? He said, when I came home, my mother always asked me, Isadore, did you ask any good questions today? And that I do that sometimes when I remember. It's a very good shita, actually, to think about how we are, like how we're framing to our children what to us means kedai, like successful, and did you ask any good questions today? En Habayshan lamed, right? En Habayshan lamed. Did you ask any good questions today? Okay, so let's say we covered the how was school, how was your day thingy. Kid has no koch to answer most of the time anyway. Sometimes they actually want to exchange, they want to share something, but the kid, generally speaking, doesn't have so much koyach to answer that kind of question. And then he says over here, the kid will end up hearing some stories that you're telling your children. He's very optimistic that we sit with books or stories to our children during the day, maybe when they're like 3 to 5. They have bedtime stories. I don't know when that ends. But he says, more or less, this is the structure in terms of the exchange between parents and children. Ata navin, but let's understand. שהמטרה שלנו, the point here, היא לשלב בשגרה, is to incorporate in the, how do you say שגרה? In the routine, את התפיסה של עולם הרגשות. He says, this is an amazing thing. He says, עולם הרגשות, when do we usually acknowledge עולם הרגשות of a child? Let's think about it. When is it usually spoken of?
When they're happy or they're sad.
Usually when they're sad, that's first of all. And when someone comes and calls them a name or they get embarrassed. So again, we're in responsive mode, right? When it comes to עולם הרגשות. לא יכול להיות. That's not a healthy development of nurturing our child's emotional development. If I'm only on the reactive end, זה לא יכול להיות. Because it can't be that that's really natural. We have to believe in what we naturally want to share with our child. Emotional buildup cannot be only reactionary. לא יכול להיות. So what he's saying over here, the purpose of what he's putting into us is to leshalev, is to integrate into the routine that's happening every single day. Binyan shel olam haregashot is the emotional buildup and development of a child. This can mean many, many different things. We could go anywhere with this. He'll share how he sees it. But this could take us anywhere. But just like I don't need to be convinced that I have to לשלב בתוך השגרה של הורות, to make sure that there are sandwiches for my children, because that's a given, that they need that in order to להתקיים. I have to believe that my child's emotional development and build-up is needed in order for them to באמת להתקיים, in order for them to be. And who was this placed on as a chiyuv and a responsibility? On me. And that's awesome. It's also, I would say, awful, like full of awe, but it's like yira v'fachad, you know? Yeah.
What about children? I mean, my children, none of them live at home. So you have to be able to find a conversation like, oh, Em, I have something to tell you, and then like, where? Put that in there. Like if like a kid calls you once or twice a week, I mean, I have some that I speak to more than that. Like, you know, to find the, or like say,
Right, so the age you're speaking about, the chiyuv is more on the child, not on the parent.
Oh, the child.
Yeah, the age that you're referring to, when children are already out of the house, married, children, whatever, 30s, 40s, 50s, that chiyuv falls more under the child, under kibud orim. You don't have a... Sorry?
You'll give a shirat to our kids.
Zed Hashem. But you know that when does chinuch end? When does the mitzvah of chinuch end? This is a very interesting topic. Very interesting topic. Is she wrong? Let's go. No. Saying never is what ki'ilu, like a child never wants to hear that their parent feels like their job is to always mechanech them. They don't want to hear it. And remember yourselves, when you were young parents, it's the last thing you wanted to hear from your parents as well. Most fights and frictions happen when children become parents, and the grandparents still are under the assumption that the mitzvah of chinuch is still on them to tell their children how to mechanech their grandchildren. It's a horrible balagan. No. The mitzvah and obligation of chinuch that parents have upon their children can either be up until they are bar and bat mitzvah, mitzad adin, or, which is frightening to think about that, but it's also the reality of life. It's just the natural reality, huh?
As long as they're home.
Or as long as they're home. But even as long as they're home, that's also it's a very interesting thing. Telling a child that's in their early 20s but still live at home that you have to act a certain way in this house is not the mitzvah of chinuch, it's just the home that you are intent on making sure stays intact. It doesn't fall into the mitzvah of chinuch. It's very different. So therefore, what we're speaking about over here is much more geared, as he began speaking about gil arach, which is even like a very young age, but let's go over here, basically from the time the child's born till like they're a teenager. Let's just put it into that category. And it keeps on changing. What they need changes very fast in those years as well.
It's like the shoes.
It's exactly like the shoes, nachon. But interestingly, when do shoe sizes stop? It's very interesting. Like around like 14, it's more or less what it's very interesting. But that's a very important thing, just mitzad, how we approach the mitzvah chiyuv of chinuch as parents. It's really these ages. Kid has a mitzvah of kibud orim his whole life. Even after their parents take off. There's a mitzvah of the meaning of honoring your parents, the kavod of your parents. But in terms of chinuch, it's really around over here. It's around here right now. So what he's saying over here is that while they're under, I hate to use this word jurisdiction, but it is that. While they're underneath your watch, okay, that's really what it is. What we must attempt to establish is that feelings and emotions are not just safe to be spoken about in a daily routine, but they're encouraged. Not like when you go sometimes to see someone, see a therapist, and they poke at certain things to try to, in a good way, to try to get things out of you. That's not what we're speaking about. We're not talking about shitot over here. But what we're speaking about is that somehow, throughout the shigra, in the routine, part of the daily grind in the house is the emotional aspect. And not just once every 2 weeks. In certain cases, when one of your kids is chubby and one of the girls called her shmena, or one of your children don't know yet how to speak Hebrew, properly, and they make fun of their a word they said. I remember. It's amazing how we could remember these things forever. I remember something right now as I'm saying this. When we made Aliyah, I knew Hebrew to the extent that I knew Hebrew because my dad did speak to me in Hebrew. But of course, there were certain words I didn't understand, or I didn't know exactly how to say them, or I thought I knew how to say them. There was one day in 4th grade where the teacher asked us all to tell the class, what do your parents do? So when it was my turn, I said, listen to the words. I said, Abba sheli mesachek im hapsanter. Right? Exactly. That's what half the class did. Right? Also. No, it's okay, because it's funny. I laugh also when I think about it. What is that? Some of you, I realize, don't realize what the...
We play piano.
Meaning my father's a musician. He plays, or mesachek im ha'akordeon. I think I said mesachek im ha'akordeon, because that's really his weapon of teaching was the accordion, as we spoke about with your siblings on Shabbos. My dad was till today in Ranana. Huh? He was your teacher also.
I was in the choir.
Accordion? Yeah. So I said umesachek im ha'akordeon, but that sounds like he plays around with an accordion, right? He plays around with it. Really, it should be hu menagen accordion, like he performs, right? And I remember till today, like the smirks and the laughing and everything like that. I came home, I probably cried about it, because anything that, if you laugh at my father, in my eyes, you're you're toast. You're done. If you diss my Abba consciously or subconsciously, sorry, I'm not anywhere near a chassid, tzaddik, anything. You're toast, right? So there's an emotional buildup. So then I come home, and should that be the only time that a kid has that emotional? Okay, now we discovered your emotional. No, ma pitom. It means so much more than that. Now we have to develop for ourselves. What does that mean? That our tending to our child's emotional development is not only reactionary. Like, what does that look like? That looks different in every single home. And I'm sorry, there's no clear answers for this. Because each home has their own set of emotional development, emotional buildup, both mitzad the parents and mitzad the children. But the goal should be shaveh in every home. Do you understand the difference, what I said right now? The goal of establishing this as a shigra in the routine should be shaveh in every single home should have this as a yad. How it's developed in every single home is very different. Very, very different. And therefore, this is a shlav in the book where I'm like, well, give over how he explains this, but to not Khalila think that this is the only way that it happens, because in every home it's different. Every child comes, and within, like we said before, and within every home, if you have 4 kids, sometimes it's 4 different ways of how it's nurtured. It's very serious stuff. Very serious stuff, very important stuff.
Or even 8.
Sorry?
So or even 8, because each parent does it differently.
Oh.
Also.
Right,
Each
or
person's
even
different.
well, okay, so this brings me to something that I'm going to save for later, but that's the problem, that it shouldn't be 8. It should actually be, in a case of 4 children, if each child needs 4 something else, the parents have to be on the same page. So even though sometimes it is true that, okay, Abba deals with this like this, and Ima deals with this like this, and then each kid has its own thing, that could be very, that's another, it's part of what we're learning. I'm sure Ilana speaks about this as well. You could tell me if I'm wrong, Sarah. But I'm sure that it's one of the most crucial things in this, like, especially in this area. Like, it's okay if a father wants to give a kid Cocoa Pebbles. Maybe it's not okay, but you know what I mean? Like, if that's not what we're talking about. Like, he wants to give unhealthy food and the mother gives healthy food. But when it comes to approaching the emotional development of a child, it's true that each parent can bring something beautiful to the table that the other maybe can't, but how they approach it begadol should be aimed to be coming from the same place.
This feels so vague.
Vain?
Vague.
Vague.
Like, you can't give us exact because we're all different and every kid's different, but we have to do it. But it's not like a checklist, but you have to kind of intertwine it all.
Some tips, please.
Right.
Practical.
Sorry.
How about scheduling? Does
So I was
that
thinking
sound
about
to-
that, but it's not a checklist. They have it.
What do you mean? What does that mean?
Scheduling, like a certain time in the day, or that's too heavy. Like
I don't know.
at 4 o'clock. was the-
Maybe for you. Maybe for you. Who am I to say? I don't know.
Exactly.
Come on.
Maybe.
Come out of bedtime.
What's that?
I
Bedtime.
used to come out of bedtime.
Always.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's something to that because you're not looking each other in the eye. It's dark. They also say the best times to have these conversations are when you're driving.
Really?
Yeah, it's
'Cause you won't fall asleep?
Much more
That's
like
a-
relaxed, not pressured,
You don't
not.
feel like
This is
yeah.
emotional 10-minute time.
It
When you're
depends where
looking
you
at
go.
each other, it's so much more intense, and it's embarrassing to share something personal.
Interesting.
Or you just have to be ready when it happens.
Right.
Which
No,
is
You don't know.
Which
on your
is-
way out to work.
exactly.
Yeah.
My favorite is as I'm going to shul, like that, like right when shul's
You guys know what I do for a living, right?
right then and there. Of course, it's vague. I mean, from the outside, he's not going to make it vague. He's going to be very exact. My point in sharing what I'm sharing now is that I've noticed already when it comes to these things is that he's offering an opinion. He's not saying this is Torah Misinai. And therefore, I want to avoid people's difficulty with hearing something like this and saying it's Torah Min HaShamayim, because it's Torah Min HaShamayim for a certain person. But you have to go back one more shlav. I have to say it again. Hashem didn't make a mistake. That omeret, that within you, within each of us, is the ability to know, to figure out a way how to provide this healthy structure. The aleph. Sorry?
If we tune into it.
Yeah. If you're here, it means you're already tuned into it. If you're coming to this year, that means you're already tuning into it. So you have to give yourself more, like, love and kavod. Like, well, you know what? I could do anything this morning, Sunday morning after a crazy Shabbos. I'm not saying it was crazy, just Shabbos. No, leifach. You're in it already. Baruch Hashem. Nekudot tovot. Nekudot tovot. Okay. So again, כיצד עושים זאת? כיצד נבנה בפועל את עולם הרגשות של הילד? כפי שהובהר לאל, like we already explained before. הורה שסובל מליקויים בעולם ההרגשות האישי שלו, יהיה לו קשה מאוד לבנות דו-שיח של עולם הרגשות עם ילדיו. ותחילה עליו לקבל טיפול מגורמים מקצועיים על מנת שיוכל לפרוץ את מחסום הרגשות שלו עצמו. I love this paragraph. I hate it and I love it. זאת אומרת, I hate that it exists, but I love that he, from the world that he's coming from, is first saying like this. Basically, what did he just say here?
So if a parent has to take care of themselves before emotionally, if they're not at that place.
And on a deeper level, what did he just say over here? That's the pshat. What's the amkus of what he said over here right now? Do you know how important you are? Do you know how important your own world is? Do you know how precious your own world is? Your own world. We're not comparing it to whose world is more precious, yours or your children, although on a plane you actually do learn that they do compare it. Right? Well, on planes you learn whose life is more precious, you or your child's. You know what I'm talking about? So, what do they tell you? Why? Where's that Torah coming from?
If you're not healthy, you can't.
So it's a b'diyuk oto nekuda. It's exactly the same place. It's not talking about whose is more important, but it's acknowledging that your safety, your healthy brain, your healthy emotional state of being is a prerequisite in order to truly learn how to approach to develop your child's emotional state of being. It doesn't mean you have to become a fixed product, a perfect outcome. No one is like that. Anyone that thinks, oh, I'll go get that fixed while I'm pregnant with my first, as if like that's the time while you're pregnant to work on emotional development, right? It doesn't work like that. Like going to get fixed, I hate that terminology. However, what I think what he's saying over here is like becoming aware of your own machsomim, your own blockages, is crucial for approaching the emotional development of your children.
I'm just gonna say it. I feel like what we're discussing in the Rabbi Nachman Shir on Thursday is like, that's the behind the scenes work. You can then apply
It's-
this.
With Emet, yes, 100%. Little plug for Thursday morning shit. Yeah.
I think also, like, part of this is, I mean, I speak for myself, but I think often as women, we can neglect our own physical needs in service of our children's physical, emotional, whatever needs, not realizing that, like, I don't know, I say this all the time, but, like, since having kids, the biggest thing I've learned is how, like, fragile I am, and it's been very humbling. But like if we don't eat enough or drink enough or get enough sleep, like it directly impacts our own like navigation of our own emotions and then our kids' emotions. And I think it's one of those things that's like so simple and foundational and basic, and yet something that we need to remind ourselves of all the time in our lives. And as we're taking care of our kids is, you know, like that form of putting on the oxygen mask first as well.
And support and encouragement from your spouse in this area, 100%. Your time, 100%. Legamre, it's part and parcel with what he's saying over here. Sorry, your hand was up?
Yeah, that was much more important.
Okay. We won't belittle what you have to say right now.
No, it's just like you mentioned, Alana, and sort of exactly what's saying here. She starts off her class by saying that if there's no shalom bayit in the house, then you can't do kind of and that's like a basic.
Right.
So you have to work on yourself first, sort of like exactly what he's saying before.
So this would fall under the same category. Why is, I just want to understand, how is that not an important thing, what he just said? Not to belittle what she said, but no, it's the same.
Shalom bayit comes easily.
Yes.
Nothing, but that was.
No, but this is a very, very important, these are very important things. We would love to attack the thing that it needs, that visibly the most attention. A child in a state of emotional frenzy.
It's easier to work on
Well,
other
it's
people.
100%. But what we really, really want is to know the emet. Now it's in there. We want to know the emet of this whole story called parents, children. We want the emet of it. What's the emet of it? The emet of it is that my child is not here to show me what I need to work on. That's not their purpose in this world. However, and people sometimes get confused with this. However, a basic prerequisite of this avoda has to be detecting where I am chasum rikshit, where I am emotionally blocked.
Or triggered.
Gam v'gam, the whole thing. Yeah. Like I need to work on detect that. Now you'll say, why? Well, I already have kids and I never did this. You're not most people don't do this before they. It's not a thing that.
We take a Lamaze class before we go into labor. We take a driving lessons before we.
But what's the difference between the two? What's the
There should
difference?
have been a parenting class before.
There's a lot of shit.
But you know what? All the parenting, it wouldn't have been parenting class.
It's like
It's not a parenting class.
doing theory lessons and not getting on the court. It's not-
Yeah. No, but Daniela, it's not a parenting class that is needed over here before you become a parent. It's not a parenting class.
That's an emotion.
It's just your own thing. But there's a catch-22. Do you know?
not
Do you
know
know?
Catch 22.
It's
You
not
may not
all,
know
but
it
this
until
definitely. Do you know when you usually realize that you're chasum rik? How does a person realize they're chasum rikshit?
Only we're trying to do it to someone else. It's like,
When in front of them there's these creatures that are constantly. This is when you notice it. You can't notice these things. You don't notice these things when they're not pulling at these places in us. That's why I'm saying it's a catch-22, meaning, so then trust like they say in Philadelphia there was a basketball team that stunk for years, and they called Trust the Process, with the rebuilding of the Philadelphia 76ers. Trust the process that Hashem created. Hashem knew exactly what he was doing when he made it clear to us that you usually notice these things and approach them once it's in front of you. It doesn't work any other way. Well, you could have all the shurim about Kedushat Eretz Yisrael before you make Aliyah, right? All of them. And the privilege and the holiness. There's this one thing that you can't know and you can't learn about until you make Aliyah. And what's that? How to live it in practice and not in theory. What'd you say?
What it's actually like.
What it's actually like. What it's actually like. Like Rav Bravender used to say this a lot. He said the one thing he regrets about, like, not regrets, but he like wondered how come they never, Rav Bravender grew up in Bnei Akiva, in Brooklyn. And he said that the one thing they never told us when we were talking about moving and making Aliyah in Eretz Yisrael is that not everyone here is Jewish. And how do you deal with that? He brought it up in an amazing gathering that I went to about, I think close to 5, maybe more. I'm just really trying to avoid saying 6 and 7 right now. Years ago, in the hotel that's on Rehov Keren Yesod, the Dan, I think it's called the Dan Panorama. A meeting with Rabbi Riskin, moderated by, I think, Rabbi Jeffrey Sachs. And he brought that up. He's like, the one thing they never really spoke to us about was that there are non-Jews in Israel. Like, how do you deal with that? So a lot of the things that we are excited for towards that goal of building a home and dating and all these things, even if someone told you about these things that have to do with children, can you remember yourself before you were married and the mind you had regarding your approach to chinuch and these things? It wouldn't have been helpful. It wouldn't have been helpful. You have to deal with what you have now in front of you, yeah.
I think that when we say that, like, everything's meduyak, like, we're the parents of the kids are parents, the other kids are our kids, like, both sides, is that it's meduyak that the kids were given to us so we can develop also. Not in terms of just the chinuch things, that through them we learn who we are, we learn how to work what's on ourselves. Like
even though that's emet, what's the danger in what you just said? What do you think about it? It's true what you said. That's an inevitable emet. But what could be a danger that could be that could derive from?
If you take yourself out of the chinuch status, like
one is right.
You're living yourself.
One is if you take yourself out of the more responsibility place. There's another thing also. You can never put that on your child. No one should ever put that concept on the child. Should never grow up in a home. Right. I mean, even though that becomes clear to all of us once we're more or less out of the house, I fixed my parents or things like that. That can't be given over to. That should never be given over to a child while they need to be first. They do need to be first. They need to feel like they're first before your own thing. So even though it's 100% true what you're saying, that's part of the design. 100%. It's also what Malachi says. We're going to read in the Haftarah of Shabbos Agado. It says what it means when it says "V'hishiv leiv avot al banim ve'leiv banim al avotam." This is a messianic concept when it's happening in harmony. This parents and children, that it becomes just one big tikkun v'chulei. Alavai bezrat Hashem.
There's also unexpected things. You can read all the parenting books. We're thinking about technology and the flights we had over iPads and movies. And I saw this morning in Arut Sheva that the Gor Hasidim answered AI legamri. Like, I'm so grateful that my kids aren't little now, and I don't have to deal with that because I'm addicted myself. So it's just all these new things are coming up. And there's no way you can prepare yourself for all these eventualities.
Many of us in the room still have little children. So it's yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Shavua tov. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. I know it's a little bit of a clear. I have to pause here. Bezrat Hashem will continue. Okay. Should be good news for Am Yisrael this week, for the whole world.